Hi, this is Rob from dnbalmanac.com with This Week in Dave Matthews Band History. This week is the 25-year anniversary of the 2000 Fall Tour kicking off in Minneapolis and Chicago. The band had played songs from an unfinished album during the summer tour and went back into the studio after the tour to finish it off. The sessions instead turned into the Everyday album, and the band hit the road almost directly from the studio. The tour started with a show in Minneapolis and then two at Allstate Arena in suburban Chicago. They didn't play any of the new Everyday album songs on tour, but the tour opener has the first Everyday outro in number 41, something that would continue for nearly a decade. The Chicago shows are best known for an impromptu Dave and Carter Halloween, and a show in Cleveland that was released as Live Track 64 caps the first week of the short tour. You can find all the set list for the Fall 2000 tour at dnbalmanac.com, where we never stop looking for information on older shows. Follow us on Facebook to get daily updates with everything that happened that day in the band's history.
Have you ever stopped to think about the fans behind a band? What is it about the music that keeps fans coming back for more? Or is there more? My name is Renae Lipsmeyer, and I am the host of this podcast, The Space Between Podcast, the podcast where we talk about the fans of the Dave Matthews Band. Each week, a fellow DMB fan joins the show to discuss their journey with the band. Welcome to The Space Between Podcast. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Space Between Podcast, the podcast where we talk about one band's fans. If you've never listened to this podcast before, we talk exclusively about the fans of Dave Matthews Band. If you do not know a lot about Dave Matthews Band, that's okay. We're going to catch you up. We're going to go through time. And that's what these episodes are about. Each episode, I have a fan of Dave Matthews Band to come on the show to tell us their journey. Whether they found the band when they first started in 1991 or if they found them last year, everyone has a different journey, a different way that they found this music and the role that it plays in their life. And so this episode is like every episode. I have not one, not two, but three guests on this show. And so this is a special show. I'm excited. We've been trying to put this one together for a while, but now is the perfect time to put this together. And I'm so excited. So I'm going to ask my guests to introduce themselves, tell us each who you are, where in the world are you, and just tell us something in general cool about you outside of the Dave world.
Absolutely. My name is Cameron Cox. I'm from Seattle, Washington. I've been to 14 Dave shows in about 6 different states.
Awesome.
And then something unique about me in my own life, I really enjoy watching sports beyond that.
Any specific sports or like all sports?
Just all sports. I live vicariously through ESPN.
Yes. Hey, if it makes you happy. All right. Who else do we have with us today?
Ryan Downey, Dublin, New York. SPAC is the home venue for me. It's a beautiful dumpster fire. And I guess, I've been to a good enough amount of shows at this point where, trying to help the community out, like people like Cameron, experience something a little different, even Carrie as well. Interesting life fact. I've lived on 4 continents. So
wow.
There you go.
That's amazing.
Sure.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. All right, Carrie, who are you?
I'm Carrie Corby. I live outside of Utica, New York in a town called New Hartford. I was born and raised on Long Island, lived in Western New York most of my adult life. Now I'm like halfway through the rest of my adult life here. My home venue, SPAC, also. I think I'm like, an hour from you, Ryan, maybe, give or take, hour and a half.
I mean, yeah. I mean, Syracuse, you got the beautiful Lakeview Amphitheater up there,
Yes, which is like 40 minutes. So how great was that this year? So I'm a social worker. I've been a social worker my whole professional life. And right now I'm clinical social work with children, and most of them have neurodevelopmental disorders. I do a lot of behavioral therapy, family therapy, and I love my job. A fun fact, I love roller derby. That's my new thing.
Yeah.
So I'm trying. What? Because when I finished roller derby and I was ready to go, I broke my finger and I was like, we need to slow down. I didn't even do anything yet, but it's fun.
I didn't know this.
Yes, this was a couple years ago. I'm like, are you serious? I just got my certificate of completion. And then the first time we're getting ready to practice, I break my finger. I'm like, are you kidding me? Yeah. But,
Oh my God, that's terrible.
but it's still fun. I just have to slow down. But Grace on Fire. No, Disgrace on Fire is my roller derby name.
Oh yeah, I love that. No, I love that.
Disgrace on Fire.
All right.
Yeah, in
That's
4
a
years.
lot. When was your 10th show?
SPAC. My second time at SPAC was
This year at SPAC.
my 9th and 10th
Okay.
show. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's
It was.
awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for being willing to get together tonight so that we can share in hearing, but also you can add to Cameron's journey and what it's looked like for these years that he's loved Dave Matthews Band. So, Cameron, I'm going to ask you that question that everybody knows is coming. When was the very first time that you ever heard, saw of Dave Matthews Band?
So the first time I heard about them and the first time that I actually saw them are two very different times in my life.
Yes.
It turned out to be 2017, 2016, the first time I heard them. I actually was vacationing with my family up in a little town, little north of Seattle. We're in a thrift store, and over the loudspeaker it comes on Ant Marching.
No way.
I love this music. I'm like, what is this? I've never heard this funky sound. And then I go back on to where I'm staying, and lo and behold, somebody's like, it's the Dave Matthews Band. And it turns out that my uncle, not to get too far into my story, my uncle was a music critic, and it turns out to be that's one of his favorite bands.
Oh, I was fixing to say, you have to tell me what he thought about the band since he's a critic, right?
I was thinking it was going to be bad.
So let's be fair. His 60th show was this summer in Lake Tahoe, where we got poured on.
Yes, you did.
And that was a lot of fun. But I digress. And the first time I saw them live was at the Hollywood Bowl, and I saw them with my uncle, and I saw them with my mom.
Now, what year was this?
That was 2022. Okay. So in about 4 or 5 years, just based off of the way that the tour dates have fallen, I kind of have gotten around.
Yes, you have. You really have. So you go to the Hollywood Bowl. Is this the first time you'd ever seen a show at Hollywood Bowl?
Yeah, so it was my first show that I've actually ever traveled for. Everything else was just local to Seattle venues. And so we had kind of we had to rent a car, which is a very difficult feat, flying in and out of Burbank. And then we had to get in and out of the venue, which was a lot of very difficult work as well. So there was that. And then he did a 2-night stand there. Me and my mom were only able to stay for the first night, which really sucked because my uncle said the second night was one of the best shows he's ever seen. They did Samurai Cop. They did all sorts of other stuff like that.
Man, it's always when you're not there that you're like, what?
Yeah.
It's like there's always that thing. Like it could be 5 seconds of a song and you're like, why am I not there? It does. There's always that regret.
Let's be fair. Those of us who were lucky enough to get to the Gorge this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, something else.
Yeah. I mean, anyone that's listening to this podcast knows about night 2 of Gorge this year. And so I can't wait to hear your thoughts on everything that happened that weekend. But we're far away from 2025 at this point. So we're in 2022. We've just seen Dave Matthews Band for the first time live. Now, of course, I don't know if you had heard at that time, but finding them, especially listening to them and finding them at a store or just on the radio or whatever, people don't often realize before their first show that when they show up to their first show, it's going to sound and be a little different than what you thought it was going to be based on the radio hits or the CDs or whatever, unless you already had dug into the live tracks. Is that something that you had already done?
So the hilarious thing is I use Spotify, right? So I was trying to listen to the studio albums, and it all of a sudden just kept feeding me to the live stuff. So 15, 20 minutes. Because of where I was stuck in a 6x6 room, and I couldn't go anywhere. So I was like, I've got all the time in the world. And then the more I listen into it, it's like, holy crap, what are we doing here? Kind of thing.
Yes. Well, I know our listeners are curious why you may have been stuck in a 6x6 room. I know that anyone that ran past their ears, they were like, hold on, the situation has changed. The story has shifted. Tell us more about that, because we can't not, right?
Yeah. So a key piece of my identity is this idea that I have cerebral palsy. It's a birth defect that mainly affects motor and sensory things and physical abilities. So I myself am in a power wheelchair For those of you that are listening, I'm seated and I don't have full access to my legs. And I go through and I just use my chair to get around. And that, while that has presented a lot of challenges for me growing up, I'm also eternally grateful because I get perks like better seats. For this specific time, the first time that I met the Dave Matthews Band, the first time I saw them or heard about them, I was actually on a boat vacationing with my family. And the only place I could go to was the very lower level, which was about a 12 by 12 area. But I could only move about 6 feet because of all the stuff that was packed around me.
So let's talk about the challenges that going to Hollywood Bowl presented for you, because this was your first concert. This was your first time traveling to a concert. So of course that presents challenges. Talk about those, because of course we want to hear how that went for you and your family.
Yeah. So in brief, because I have a power wheelchair, the chair's got to be taken apart and taken into the airplane. Right, where all your luggage goes, that's where my power chair goes. I get it checked at the gate, and then secondarily, you have to get ADA accessible hotel rooms, and you have to get an ADA accessible rental van, which can be difficult depending on where you are, and actually very expensive.
Sure.
So unless you have those three things nailed down, you're not going anywhere.
So your parents traveled to Hollywood Bowl with you?
Yeah. So
they were very helpful and had been used to doing those things.
Right. And I should just say, I would not be where I am without my parents. My dad chose to be a stay-at-home dad when I was born, 25 years ago now. But it was one of those things where like they knew intently what all of my needs were, right? And so growing up, I would have the ability to go do all of these things, but I'd always have to answer this question of, what about the care? What about the care? Like, what are you doing? Have you thought this far ahead? Because we know that our capabilities are not there for you yet.
Yeah, that presents challenges, especially when you fall in love with a band that travels around so much, right? And you just want to go after you discover them. So after first show, what are you thinking? Because let's go back to that moment. Like I said, seeing them and hearing them, two different things. And even though you had heard live tracks, just seeing them, because they put on a visual show as well, right? And so take us back to that moment. Like, was there some separation or some newfound love in their music once you were actually seeing them play?
Well, let's put it this way. I had never really seen them perform, or I never really understood the depth of their catalog and what they could do. So, I only knew a few songs back then. It was only like Ants Marching, and it was only, number 41, for example. And that was about it, really.
Yeah.
And so, I was just there for the experience, and I wanted to kind of share some family time with my mom. And
so they love Dave Matthews Band. Is that correct?
No. So my uncle has seen them. My uncle has seen them at that time 53, 52 times. But that was the first time for my mom and I. And my mom had gone with me to sort of be the caregiver, if you will, for the group. And so, we both loved it. And, it's my first show. So I'm just kind of taking it all in, like the fact that I'm traveling, the fact that I'm here. One fun note about that, 41 was the opener that night, and I incredibly loved it. And then the closer that night was Ants Marching with Anne-Marie Simpson, which was really amazing.
Awesome. You leave your second show, and what are your plans? Are you like, I have to figure out how to get more? Or are you content and just going home and digging into some more of their music?
Yeah, so...
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Guide Through Grief. I'd like to share a clip from the podcast so you can get a feel for what's in store.
It was definitely Dave Matthews Band. Their music became therapeutic. Steady as we go. There was one night Leslie was in the hospital when she was in a coma, and I had no other prayers. I had no other things to say. And I found myself just singing her that song a bunch that week. I really leaned into their music to get through.
I'm glad you had Dave.
It was one of those things where by the time they were at the Hollywood Bowl in 2022, they had already pre-announced the 2022 fall tour. I already bought tickets for. My mom bought tickets for Seattle because we all loved it so much, and then the next night I had bought them for Portland. As it turns out, my sibling was going to Lewis and Clark at the time, which is a little college just outside of Portland. And it was really convenient to sort of do Seattle one night and then Portland the next.
Yeah.
Because my uncle was flying up. My uncle had always wanted my grandma to see it, and my grandma was super musically inclined growing up. And she'd always be like, "What in the heck is the Dave Matthews Band? Like, what is this? How does this function?" My uncle flies her up here because my uncle flies her up to Seattle. And then we basically sit there for a time and go through happily. And we sit in this box together and we just hear everything. We hear Louisiana Bayou, we hear Cornbread, we hear All Along the Watchtower, we hear Sledgehammer that night. And it was one of the best shows up to that point I had seen. Little did I know the power of the Dave Matthews Band after that, as we'll get into here in a minute.
Well, let's continue that voyage. Tell us what's all happened between that time frame and 2025, which we keep peeking the fact that you went to the Gorge this year. So what all happened after that?
So I stopped after fall 2022, got the itch in 2024 for warehouse, but my parents were on vacation up by the Canadian border, and at the time I was living with them, and I basically snuck out of the house with my roommate and a friend of ours, and we drove from my house in the Metro Seattle area all the way to the Gorge and back in the same night. That just happened to be the night that they did Two-Step Opener for one of the first times in 2023. That was the Chuck Sperry poster night 2. It was a really, amazing experience just in general.
I agree. I was there that year. It was my first time, so I don't have anything to compare that to, but it was a good year. I had a great time. I'm glad that you guys did too.
Yeah. And your first year, Renae?
Yes.
That was my first year too. Yes. That's funny.
And I see you have that beauty behind you. Of course, mine is right here.
Hey, trust me, I have it. I'm just in a small apartment. That's not all that. That's all I think. And so then I kind of got the itch and kind of played along with it. And then 2024 happened. I joined Warehouse. I got my 3-day Gorge ticket, and then that's kind of where the story is going to take off.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to sort of talk about some of that as we go through this. So I thought I had a super successful plan in 2023. Loved doing it so much that I wanted to do it again. Well, at that point in time, I had moved out of my parents' house and into my own apartment, and I had sort of this idea that I wanted to live life to the fullest. And lo and behold, I decided to go to the Gorge. And I have, at the time, caregivers with me that need to help me take care of my own needs. I've got to pack my car, and drive 2.5 hours to bring, my disability equipment that I need and that I've never set up before in my entire life. I bring a caregiver, but I need to find a second caregiver due to some issues. As all the first timers do, I put on Facebook, "Hey, folks, I'm going to the Gorge. I needed somebody to give me a ride directly to this venue. Can anybody help me out? Because I'm going to have caregivers that need me over there," and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm. Here. So this part of the story connects us to Ryan. So Ryan, tell us your side of the story when all this starts to happen.
It was fairly basic, really. Like Cameron mentioned, we was looking for assistance, just getting a driver out. It's like somebody literally just to drive his van out to the Gorge, right? Obviously, there's a ton of people coming out of Seattle, floating that way. So pinged a few people, see what we could do. I think there were 1 or 2 people that were going to be able to help him out if really needed. Actually, one of the people potentially that was an option is somebody I met on the flight from Albany, out to Seattle. So, that would have,
awesome.
Potentially, whatever, not they could or not, it is what it is. So people were there. Somebody would have helped out. Obviously Cameron got a ride from, I don't know exactly how he figured it out, but he didn't need me to help anymore and got things dialed in. So that was very nice,
And I'll just jump in here quickly to say on Saturday, after an amazing Friday night show, Saturday morning, I'm getting ready to change caregivers out, and the caregiver's not coming in until later in the day. And all of a sudden, here comes this guy running along the path right behind where I'm camping and what used to be standard ADA. And lo and behold, we start talking. He's like, "Are you Cameron by chance?"
Who is it?
I had a hunch it was Cameron. So, just from
it was
from
you.
what That was me. Yes, that was me. So yeah, I mean, he'd gotten out there and we had chatted actually. I know we'd swap numbers and stuff, text to see what was going on to make sure he was going. And then I was out with the DMB Fit crew on a run. So
awesome. I love the
there's
DMB Fit crew.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a ton of people strolling around in a wheelchair that look like Cameron. So I figured I'd stop and see if it was him, and he got everything all set up. And so I think we did a day at Cave B, right? If I remember correctly, I went and picked up your van and drove over there and hung out for a few hours. So, and then, but you were only doing two days that year. So
So hold on. That year was a real learning experience for me insofar as I only did 2 days because I had a little malfunction that I didn't know about. And so I had to go home Sunday morning. And so that kind of then set the stage for this year where I went through, got into grad school, and I was sort of thinking to myself, I want to make as many memories as I possibly can for this one summer because I know my head's going to be in the sand, so to speak, right? And I need the memories to sort of like do things that I want to do and sort of make this huge summer of change, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sounded like a good plan. And obviously 2025 was a great year. So how did you go about planning 2025 with the resources you already knew about from the previous years?
So the funny thing is I didn't know about very many of the resources. Had this idea when the tour dates came out. I was like, hey, what can I do? How can I make this special? Because I knew I was applying in January. I knew there was a pretty good chance of me getting in. So I kind of just wanted to go all out this summer. And I had Ryan's number and I talked to him intermittently, but I was like, hey, I'm thinking about coming out to SPAC. Like, what do I need to do for that? Am I crazy in doing so? And I didn't want to like say, hey, help me out as much as I possibly can.
Yeah.
Or how much as you can. But I just sort of wanted to see what the steps were and the feasibility of it was, right?
Right.
Because I knew my parents would never let me fly out to Albany, New York, or fly out to Saratoga because of the flight changing and all the stuff that it could happen with the chair and all the all the caregiving needs and all the hotel needs and the rental car needs. It was like, again, it's this what about the care thing, right? Are you sure you only have it planned enough to make it work?
Right. So how did you make it work? And Ryan, what was your first thoughts when he called you?
There's a lot of nuances to this whole thing. So when he mentioned it, I said, if somewhere along the line within a conversation or two, it was, if we do this, we need to plan this now. Like, this isn't something that we, the tour starts up and we're like, hey, like, this would be a good time. Let's try to figure this out. It was like, we literally need to start when these dates are released. So that kicked things off.
Ryan and I had just gotten to talking and he was like, hey, what are your big needs? Well, I need caregivers and I need caregivers, right? That's thing one, because I can't do anything without my basic needs being met. So I put out on the Saratoga SPAC page, hey, I'm looking for all of these things. It's a first time flight. I'm going to be doing this independently for my first time. Like, this is my very first time doing any of this.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for caregivers, I'm looking for possible places to stay, and I'm looking for any sort of resources of what to do in the area. And then lo and behold,
here comes Carrie.
Here comes Carrie.
The first person to respond.
A few people chimed in, that were like helpful and like could point us in direction, but there was like Carrie was the only person that really stepped.
Thank you, Carrie, number one. And so did you just see all of this on Facebook? Or Carrie, how did you get involved in all this?
I think I joined the groups last year on Facebook, the different crew and like different groups. Like I learned when I went to a cover band, I met, and I wish I got their names and I exchanged information. You meet people out. It was like a cover band.
Oh, yeah.
It was, or the Dave Matthews tribute band. I saw them play locally. I saw them play locally and I'm like, I can't believe this. Like, cause I'm new. So this is like Christmas for me every day. I'm like, what is all this?
Oh, yeah.
And everyone's like 100 shows. I'm like, I'm at show number 3. And I'm like just the newbie who's like 51 doing this, right?
I love newbies.
So the best part was I'm like, I'm going to see this tribute band. It's at a local hole in the wall. Well, I shouldn't say it's a hole in the wall. Tim Reynolds actually just played there this past year. So what's the Wilcott, right? Yeah. So I'm like, I'm going to get the VIP seating because you have your own bathroom. I'm going by myself. So I'm like, I'm going to have my own table You have your own bar and bathroom. It's just safer. I'm like, and then a boom, boom,
Awesome.
You don't realize you're right in front. Like, and the stage is there. I'm like, I can't believe how close I am to this. Like, but I met this girl and her brother, and I started talking to people. I think they were like the first people who I met who are like, you need to get into all these Facebook groups. And they were talking about how they've gone to Mexico and they go together every year. And I'm like, the different creation groups. I'm like, this is crazy. Like, I didn't realize this.
It's a lot.
This is where I'm going to find my, because when I went to George in 23, that was my second Dave show ever. So like my brother's like, that was his home venue. He's like, I just ruined Dave Matthews for you. I'm like, why? He's like, second show, Carrie, and you're at the Gorge. He's like, any other show is true to live up to this. So I was like, but he was right. Like how you feel when you're there, and like it's personal, right? So I wanted to feel like that every day of my life. So I'm like, how can I feel like I'm at the Gorge every day of my life? Like you can feel your aspects of it.
Tell us.
By connecting with people.
I want to know.
Right?
Yes.
So
that's true.
So I'm in this group, and for a living, before I did clinical social work, I was in Western New York, and I worked with agencies who work with people with disabilities. So I did a lot of case management, supervision of, but I worked in a lot of adaptive equipment and environmental modification bids for families who needed ramps built on their houses and needed accessibility. So when I see him post in a social group, like this isn't work for me, right? This is my social outlet.
Right.
And I'm like, and nobody's responding. I'm like, oh my God, I could totally help you. Like, why? There's got to be people who know people. Like, why isn't anybody giving? Like, I don't get it. So I'm like, I can help you, thinking it was going to be easy with the resources I had, but it wasn't, because insurance comes into play. State comes into play. All these regulations come into play. And then it's like not a vacation. You're going on vacation. Now it's like we're filling audits for like the Department of Health just so Cameron could have like a bed. You know what I mean? And I'm like, that's not what this is supposed to be.
So hold on. Let's take this a step back here quickly, which is Carrie is the only person who provides really anything of any substance. I tell Ryan, we put each other in a Facebook group. We don't really realize what we're doing here. We don't really realize how far this is going to go. But we then start chipping away at it, right? It's first of all, hey, what is your disability? What do you need, right? And then I was sort of thinking about it in terms of, well, what do you need? What are all the contingencies of what you need? And at this point, I'll just tell one quick funny story. I didn't tell anybody until April, May.
No, I love that.
That I was doing this, because I wanted to make sure that it all popped out. And it ends up popping out at my Easter dinner table.
It's the best story.
Please tell me it's on video.
Let's put it this way. So I had told, my college roommate, and he was like, you should probably tell your parents, and they're over at Easter dinner. And I'm like, hey folks, I'm going to New York.
What were your parents' initial reaction?
So they were like, hey, it's crazy. And so I had sort of, there was a hushed silence at the table, and I kind of just let it go. And then I had kind of told my parents enough. I was like, hey, I'm working with these 2 or 3 lovely people that I hope you get a chance to meet one day. They are literally the greatest. We're planning this thing from scratch. We've got any contingency that you ever wanted to get done. And, Carrie's connections are really great, because they were like, reach out to, all these care agencies, and reach out to the local organizations and do this and that and the other. And we end up finding a local organization called SAIL, which basically fits right into Carrie's mission of how do we make this happen? And they had chairs, they had everything. Beyond the first, like, hey, what are we doing here? It was then a matter of, hey, what do we do for the activities? What do we do when we're there? What's the itinerary? And so Ryan's like, hey, you're going to do this. You're going to go to Harvey's. And once you go to Harvey's, fly in Tuesday or Wednesday, get the day, like experience what Albany and the surrounding area is, and then go through, talk about Saratoga, right, which is its own unique mess. And then, we go and do the shows. But then from there, it was like, hey, well, what do we need for the car? What do we need the ADA accessible van to be? What, like, literally, is everything the same? Well, we don't know that. Okay, well, what about the hotel rooms, right? Because all the hotel rooms are not necessarily ADA accessible, because the beds, let me do some quick measurement for you. The wheel on the Hoyer lift, which is it's like a mechanical function, right? It's a mechanical organization with about 2-inch long wheels that has to go under the bed. So the bed's got to be at least 10 or 12 inches off the ground. And so none of the places that we looked at were ever going to do that.
Right.
And then this is where I'll turn it over to Ryan and Carrie, because as these discussions were getting deeper and deeper in, we were really uncovering a lot of the minutia and a lot of the challenge with this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, this was all really tracked too. Like me and Carrie were writing stuff down, editing a Word doc, everybody's shareable Word doc. Carrie had her sections, some of the medical aspects and other things to ask and dial in. And then Carrie had driven up from the Utica area to Albany so we could do a scouting of Saratoga, stop at some hotels, put a face to the adventure. So, I mean, Carrie was very supportive in that aspect of
Carrie.
Boots on the ground
amazing.
kind of stuff.
Yeah,
it was like
amazing.
We did the let's walk through, like, this is where we're going, like, what are the obstacles and where do we start? So we started hotel by hotel. I think we started with that, right, Ryan? Like,
yeah, I mean, because there were some like right on the way that were, right off the interstate, that's in the price to distance ratio that we thought would be the best, for to maximize everything, that we would need.
Yes.
We hit like 5 or 6, maybe 7, but like number 5 on the list ended up being recommended by one of the local hotels, and they said, Tom will take care of you.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was great. So great.
Now, granted, I'm 3 hours behind, so at the same time they're doing this, I'm thinking it's like 6 a.m. I think they're only going to spend like maybe 3 hours out. No, they spent until like 8 p.m.
Oh yeah, we were there. It was all day.
Yeah, we went to Druthers and got lunch or dinner.
Yeah, it was a nice day.
All freaking day.
The weather was beautiful too. It was a perfect day to scout. Like, wasn't it? Like, it was perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And, I mean, is for people that listen to this too. I mean, one of the things that we did utilize very well was like, it's a basic tool where a lot of us used to it, but I mean, utilizing something like, some sort of video chat function, right? There were things that me and Cameron did when he came up here that weren't accessible for him, right? But we were able to be like, oh, hey, well, let's just like video chat in, and like you can see it through that. So
right.
It's like using those widely available tools and figuring out how to put them to like a little bit of a different use, which I think we all did a pretty good job.
Awesome. So we found a hotel. Were there other things you were looking for as well?
I mean, Carrie knows this. I mean, she can go through this a little bit.
No, you're going to tell it better though, because it was like we got there and it's
I mean, so from the scouting perspective, this is a two-parter, but from the scouting perspective, I was very aware that the historical nature of Saratoga, like, it wasn't going to be very ADA accessible. Now, there are places in Saratoga that like do have, like Harvey's in particular, it does have accessible first floor. Right. But I knew that the second floor, from just being there a few times, right? Like, I don't remember seeing an elevator. I don't remember seeing a way up to the second floor where Rob Messina plays. So, yes. Yeah, there's 20 some odd stairs. So they were very nice at Harvey's, and, me and Carrie scouted, it's basic, right? But like double check things, see how things were maneuverable or not. So that was a big one that I really wanted to dial in and check on and talk to somebody about.
And then after these guys go through and do all the scouting, we meet a couple weeks later and they're like, hey, here's what we found. A hotel, here's our biggest issues. And our biggest issues were Harvey's, because, Rob Messina plays on the balcony of that. And everyone's like, you're flying all this way. Just spend the money, do what you need to do, like, make this a great experience for you. And that kind of created more solutions than problems, but it still created some pretty intricate problems to deal with, right? And so thankfully we ran into the Saratoga Independent Living, Southern Adirondack Independent Living is their name, SAIL. And those guys,
they are the BAWA.
They are the best of what's around.
How did you find them?
Sorry, like, before we go down that little thread here, there was one very nice thing that we did scout that people should be aware of in the Saratoga area if they want to check it out. That is very handicap accessible and it's been planned as such, is the Saratoga Historical National Park, right, where the Saratoga battlefield was. Which we can tie in, and we did a tour of that later. But I just wanted to throw that in there. Like we went to hotels, Snowfield, downtown, to scout out some of the location, and it is specifically designed to be ADA accessible.
Great.
So a lot of this, let me just take a step back. A lot of them was like, what do you want to do during the day? We can do one big thing, one small thing. And I'm like, well, I've got a degree in history, I've got a degree in political science, and I'm a teacher. Anything I can do for my students to sort of deepen their understanding of what's going on. So that's why the Saratoga battlefield was chosen. That's why a lot of these things
that makes sense. Chosen. Yeah. Did you love it?
It was incredible. Now, it was truly, truly incredible.
And we had a guided tour as well, which was nice.
Good.
Like a two and a half hour guided tour. Jenna was really, really, really knowledgeable. So obviously they have to go through a lot of steps to be like certified to be a historical tour guide at one of those places.
They know their stuff.
It's no joke on the level of information those guys know.
So Carrie, tell us about this miracle company that really kind of came through and helped you guys out.
I think we had a lot of leads to places, and then we would contact and we'd be like, yay, and then it'd be like, nay. And I'm trying to remember what they first connected us with, and I think it was just like a Hoyer lift. We were just looking for one thing, and then it turned into we do more than just that, and we also donate it for free. And I'm like, whoa, this is getting better and better. So it's like a lending library, which I was familiar with from the work I did in Buffalo. There were a lot of agencies that had those adaptive equipment lending, and it would be no cost because it was non-for-profit, and that's what they did. And I really thought, well, no, they're going to charge Cameron. He's coming from Washington, because I'm thinking New York State, there's probably regs with that, like with like non-for-profits, like there's rules with lending. No, like then Cameron was going to call, and I think you took over with the Hoyer lift once we knew like what was needed. And then more and more things. I think, Ryan, you were then talking with them about other things that they were able to, you're going to need this. We will be able to do that.
Yep. And just those guys, April and Cameron, to give them a shout out, were so great, because it would be, hey, we have push chairs for you. Hey, we have anything. Like, what else do you need? And I said, we need pads for the seat. We need foot straps. We need all this stuff.
And they had
they put in an Amazon order for us. We didn't have to pay for any of it.
Isn't that wild? Just to borrow, right?
It's amazing.
So then behind the scenes, the three of us had sort of talked about, okay, what's our next challenge? Well, our next challenge is going to be, how do we pay for things, right? And so then that's where the GoFundMe came along, and we'll get into that more in a second. We end up making more, spoiler alert, we end up making more than what we need. So then we had sort of talked about, hey, anything more that we make, we're going to donate it right back, because it's a local organization that sort of suits the needs of everyone. And there's that. But
yes.
To go back to Carrie's New York regulations thing, another challenge we had was all the caregivers, right? I'm not from New York. I have no bloody idea where Saratoga is. I've got no clue, like, what's left, right, and center. And I call these guys, and I call all the state organizations that Carrie has. And she's like, you need a New York doctor's note, and you need a New York residency. And then they need to make a plan of care for you. It doesn't really work that way.
Yeah, it's this whole thing.
Right. So then the next question that I started to ask was, hey, well, do you know anybody who would do this for free? And then not for free, but for, like, say, whatever New York's minimum wage is.
Yeah.
Not minimum wage, but whatever New York wage is. Edit that out, please.
Like private pay is their company, and some agencies, even not-for-profits, would do like private pay. So it blew my mind that there wasn't that option. I'm like,
right. No, now granted, those things took a long freaking time to adapt and adjust, and that was my sort of smoking gun, because I had done all of this. I had done the pieces of this trip independently of one another. I'd spent weeks away from home before. I'd obviously been to college by myself, so I've already worked with the caregivers. I know what finding those looks like, but I'd never done it on the whole and have it be things that I wanted to do.
Yes.
I used to fly back and forth from Phoenix to Seattle all the time. So finding caregivers was a bit of a pain and very, very difficult, both from distance and just availability standpoint. Because a lot of the shifts that we were working on was we need a 7 a.m. 7 a.m. to 9 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also need a like 11 to 1, like 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. because we need to make sure that when we get back there, we have enough time because we're going to be on concert high and we got to get out of this unknown location and drive 30 minutes and do all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of this too for other people listening, right? Is that, you to look for things like sale, if you were to do this, right? To look for hotel people, call a bunch of places, see what they do. I mean, there were places and hotels we went to that you could tell that not in a bad way, but they were just kind of like, but like, we might be able to do something. It's like, well, we don't want to hear you,
No,
it's kind of like, this is a big thing. We need somebody that's like engaged, and like Tom was super engaged, like at the Best Western Clifton Park. So, like as we go through this, other people listening, right? It's like if you typed in or look for another organization like Southern Adirondack Independent Living, maybe there's a place out in Seattle. Obviously Cameron would be a good, person to reach out to, for accessibility and other things to the gorge. But if you're in California or Colorado or something, right? Like look for organizations like Southern Adirondack Independent Living.
Yep.
Wow.
Hotels, same thing. And like home care services. There are the big thing, right? That I don't know how we actually landed on this part. I don't know if it was Chamber of Commerce or Sale. I think it might have been Sale that recommended.
Was it?
No,
Chamber of Commerce.
I'm almost positive they gave you like a lot.
But like, Felicia's home care service, right? So as Carrie is mentioning how New York State, right, has these regulations and these things to do, I'm sort of assuming, and it's not good to make an assumption on this front, if you just travel somewhere and hope that it's going to work out. But then there's something like Felicia's home care services in Saratoga that directly connects her fee is to, connecting caregivers to people that need it. And it seems to be my understanding, Carrie, potentially, is that it's mostly like cash based, right? People are paying for services. So, to look into things like that, you have your Word document that we build, your Excel spreadsheet, your other, communication pieces of the puzzle to let everyone know like what we're doing and where things are. These are
weekly meetings.
Resources.
We had weekly meetings. We had weekly Zoom meetings with the PowerPoint. We went through everything. Ryan kept us all organized. It was great. It was like, all right, what are we at? But you needed to have that person to be like, all right, this is what we got to help Cameron get to. This is what Carrie's got to look into. And then Ryan wants to be able to check that off to be like, we don't have that as something we don't need anymore. But it's great because that's I think his strong suit is like, well, let's get the needs met. What do we need? Boom, boom, boom. I'm like, I love that because I can do the work. Somebody else has got to do the Excel sheet. So if somebody's telling us like, keep going, then it's like, all right. But no, it did. It worked. Those meetings were really imperative but the beauty is like, I think once Felicia's came, it was like, great. Once he knew his schedule, then she could fill and find and hire people that he could interview.
Yeah. And frankly, I've done that all throughout my entire life.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But, then fast forward, so I don't fill in my parents about this until I am literally in Saratoga. No. And I told them little bits and pieces like, hey, here's the hotel I'm going to be at, or, here's my plan. I'm leaving Tuesday night and I'm coming back Sunday. So I get to Saratoga off of a Seattle to Chicago red eye, which is not a lot of fun.
Nope.
And then I got to basically cross the gate. I got to cross all the way from the one end of O'Hare to the other. Thankfully, I have 2.5 hours, but I've got to put my chair back together, take the chair apart. If anything goes wrong, it's all on me. So we've done all this planning. We've locked down all the caregivers. All that's literally left to do is take the flight and have the reward for all of the planning and all of the work, right?
Yes.
And it's important to know, Carrie and I had not met each other, right? Ryan had met Carrie at Syracuse the first time, and I had met Ryan at the Gorge just by happenstance the year previous.
Wow.
I want to restate that for everyone else that's listening to just understand we are a team of 3 doing all of this work and kind of making it happen. And so I get there, Ryan picks up the van. He is pretty gung-ho. I'm pretty gung-ho. Like, I'm trying to stay awake because,
yes,
my body is like 3:30 in the morning. And, we go do all these things. Like, I see parts of the country I've never seen before. It's beautiful. It's literally beautiful.
It is beautiful.
At this point, I had never met Carrie. We find out later that Carrie's bringing a friend of hers in sort of a similar situation. We find out later that Carrie's going to camp, so I don't actually meet Carrie until Wednesday or Thursday.
Got that work.
I got that work thing, yeah.
Yeah. Part of the travel planning, I mean, that I was most worried about was the layover, right?
Yes.
For other people traveling as well or doing this, Chicago has resources, but like if something happens, there's a layover, there's no real support, right? Like there is support,
right.
like we could figure it out. I mean, DMV community is pretty phenomenal. I had other personal friends, in Chicago, but my only worry during the whole thing was the layover. It was
so
like,
once he
what
on
happened?
The plane.
Well, yes, like that's when I was like, okay, this is
We've
like
got
done.
this.
It's like
Yeah.
Chicago was the one potential like real significant like hiccup point that we could have hit. And that was both ways, right?
So I flew through Chicago on the way there, and I flew through Vegas on the way back. Vegas was a bit of a nightmare. What I will say, I got through Chicago, no real problem. I was frankly worried about what happened in Albany because it's a super small regional airport, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you got to pull the chair out. What does the chair look like? I've got to direct all these people. I've got so much adrenaline, like holy F, I'm here kind of thing.
But you had support here, though. That's the thing. Like in Chicago or Vegas, like you were non-directly, you didn't have the direct support, which is what I was the most worried about.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So
everything kind of goes off without a hitch. And then getting there, it goes off without a hitch, like no serious problem whatsoever. Then we go into, the hotels, and the other thing that I was a little bit worried about is caregiver cancellation. Thankfully, we didn't really have too many of that, but we had backups, and we were able to find backups using, the care agency that we had chosen. And it was just
that was another big learning, right? The caregivers for right. We had people lined up, but the nuance of our scenario and depends on each person. The hard part here is like everybody's scenario is going to be different for the most part, right? Depending on your handicap and what caregiver needs you have. If you have caregiver, what other support systems you have, was that because Cameron was only doing 2-hour pay periods, right? It was like people would pick up larger jobs as we got closer, right? It's a very fluid environment.
Yes.
So it's like somebody gets an 8-hour job, they're going to pick that up because it's paying, more money for the day.
Yeah.
So, but also part of that is like as one person falls out of the process, somebody else can get pulled in because they're not working somewhere else. So
Right.
So it was, Wednesday night was, I wouldn't say hectic, but Wednesday night, Cameron was on the phone and we were talking and communicating with Felicia at the home care consulting service, right? To see who else was out there and what our connections were to get things in for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And by Thursday morning, I would say lunchtime-ish, because we had everything. We were much, much more comfortable for the weekend.
Awesome.
But that is something that people should be aware of, is that that is going to be probably your most fluid scenario, right? Is the caregiver aspect.
Yeah.
Potential fluid scenario.
Now, it's something I'm forgetting to mention, just in the scope of everything. We decided at some point to take our story kind of broader out to the local medias. And so we had kind of worked with Saratoga Living. And this is important because the story, we film it in late June, and the story doesn't run until 2 days before Saratoga.
The day before.
That's right. It was the day before.
It's the day before. You were in town. We had to go donate money to sale. And then that's when they were like, okay, they wanted the picture so we could throw it in the art.
That's absolutely right, because we wanted them in there, right?
Right. So basically, So basically, we have this amazing local author do what she does best. Thank you to whoever wrote that.
You know who wrote that?
Sierra.
We then go. Well, sure, Sierra. Thank you for that.
Yeah, whoever wrote that, you're funny.
Then we decide to all meet up at Harvey's, and Harvey's was its own little disaster because, I've never been there, so I get there at like 5:00, and then there's these guys who literally help me transfer in, and we literally are hooking up backwards this pushchair going all the way up the stairs
at Harvey's,
like make a turn all the way upstairs again, and then all the way out on the patio.
Isn't that wild?
I'm so glad they did it safely.
I don't want to cut that story off, but I do want to give a little insight into the Saratoga Living thing, because there was a previous article. I don't know if you've seen this, Renae. This is the Saratoga, our 26 years Dave Matthews Band Obsession. It's a very good article by Will Levitt, right? It's, the church, the Church of Dave. I don't know if this is actually.
I have not seen this.
Wow, we'll have to. So there are currently in circulation that are left. There are currently under 20 left.
I just want a copy of each page, scan it in and email
I'll
it to
mail
me.
it to you. Well, yes. I can send you a hard copy. But
long story short, Renae, he sends me this copy as a Christmas present.
It was part of a swag gift that I would send out to people with sellers and stuff like that. So Cameron had mentioned, he went big. Cameron was like, "Oh, we should call Ellen DeGeneres or something like that." And I was like, "I don't know if I want to do that. That's a little too personally." So I was like, but now that you say that, let me reach out to somebody, because I had seen this article years ago. He knows people in the area, and I was actually looking for some other connections to, put pieces together with tickets, etc. Whatever, right? And that's when Will was the connection point from Cameron and I and Carrie to Saratoga Living, which then ran the very well built article by the Saratoga Living team in Sierra. So,
yeah, and
who also showed up at Harvey's, by the way, to see it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
And I'm so excited talking about this that I can honestly sit here saying, given the sort of arc of my story in summer, I cannot freaking believe that we even did this in the first place. So coming on back here, I get picked up at the airport from Ryan and his mom, and I've met his mom virtually, right? And I've never met these people, so we decide, let's go to Treehouse, let's go on this tour, let's do all these things, and let's do one small thing, one big thing, right? I'm so glad I came in on Wednesday, got my feet underneath me for Thursday, shows were Friday, Saturday, I fly out Sunday. And we just do as much as we possibly can. Heck, Ryan and I decide to scout, search, the venue the day of,
important.
So we get a personal guided tour of SPAC. Ryan's big thing, was let's do one big thing, one small thing, because that's really about all the time you have to do before you travel. And of course, I just want to get to the ground and I want to explore. I want to do everything.
Yeah.
So
Ryan was great.
Yeah.
One big, one little. Let's be realistic.
How Ryan, frankly, helped me stay on track with that. I have no freaking clue, because we're both twitchy as all get out. I have to do this. I got to do this. This has got to be done this way. And thank you to Ryan and thank you to Carrie for just helping me stay on track. We pull up to Harvey's. We have to literally take the front seat of the van out, the front right-hand seat of the van, leave that in my hotel room for 3 days. That already doesn't have a lot of space. And we put the push chair in there, and we literally pull up into Harvey's, leave the power chair down below on the first floor. We find these 2 or 3 burly guys.
Very nice.
Very nice. And I have to direct them how to put everything in. I literally get put in the chair. They hike me up 25 stairs. Boing, 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 boing. And then I go all the way out in the back, and I literally sit and listen to Rob Messina for 5 hours.
Yeah,
that's
he's so good.
He does his full set, so you get the whole deal with him.
Right. Now,
he's so good.
And of course, the drinks are flowing, and I couldn't go 5 feet in Albany or Saratoga without people saying to me, "Hey, we saw your story online. This was one, I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad to have met you, can I get your Facebook or can I get your Instagram or whatever?
Yeah.
And one of the things that I really struggled with, again, I've got this disability. I don't want all of the attention being on me. So I go through and say to them, hey, I'm super glad to be here. Like, it was a massive undertaking, but it was not just me who did this. I want to acknowledge the work of, the Three Stooges.
I love it.
People are just coming up to me left, right, and center. Like, hey, pleasure to meet you. I'm from so on and so forth. And if I may, I'm in Saratoga, 3,000 miles from my house. And Ryan says, hey, let me introduce you to a friend of mine that lives in Burien, which is a small suburb of mine. I start talking to her, and she's like, hey, did you go to Newport High School? And did you go to high school in Bellevue at this one place? I'm like, yeah. Well, do you know this one English teacher? I'm like, yeah, he was my English teacher in senior year.
The chances.
And she's like, I used to give him his first job at, I think it was Starbucks or something. And I introduced him to his now wife. They were on, and my jaw literally goes through all of the pavement on the second floor of her, all the way down to the ground. And I'm literally like, what in the fuck is going on here? Because I'm like, I'm 3,000 miles from home. Nobody makes this trip. And nobody makes this freaking trip. And, we've stayed in contact since then. I'll see all these folks later on. So, you know who you are in this local part of the country. You know who you are. But I say all of that to say I was getting, called from people from, Vegas or people from, California who were out there at SPAC. Like, literally, I couldn't go 5 feet. So it was sort of overwhelming for me emotionally, right?
Sure, I bet. It is.
So that was Thursday. Friday, we get a tour of the venue. And one of the things that Ryan was super adamant about was, hey, we need to get you undercover in SPAC, right? The first 5,000 seats are covered. The 25,000 behind you are sort of like the Gorgelon, but much smaller. And you don't want to be there because it's terrorists and it's really nasty. So we had been working with security, and they say, hey, you want to move from the top of the covered area of the 6th row for night 1? Heck yeah. Oh yeah. So literally, Ryan, so the plan, Carrie had to sort of stay behind to work with her friend, but Carrie and I, at the end of all these meetings, would literally manifest things. Well, what do we want to hear? We want to hear two-step. We want to hear all this stuff. And our hashtag for this whole thing was two-step to SPAC. It was the best thing we could come up with online.
I like it.
Right. And Carrie was unable to sort of be with us night 1.
Well, I mean, where did you guys met at? It wasn't at Harvey's because Carrie, you came in a little later, right?
You went to Lee's and you picked me up and we went to lunch.
Yes.
That was
on Friday.
Right, yeah. You were like, let's go, we'll pick you up and then we'll go.
So
and I had a meeting there.
And I gave Carrie the biggest hug I have ever given an individual.
I think we freaked out in the parking lot and people are looking at us like, what's going on here? It's like,
you're like long lost friends.
It's like, yes, I need to hug you right now.
Right. Now, trust me, I'm used to getting looks, but I'm not used to getting those kind of looks. So, Renae, just so we're clear, I didn't really realize what a cathedral SPAC was. And my favorite songs are number 41, Funny the Way It Is. I love Funny the Way It Is, just because I'm a teacher and it talks a lot about these dichotomies that sort of roll through. Yes. And I love You and Me because it's sort of you and me together kind of make this whole thing happen. And night 1, we get You and Me. I'm literally almost in tears with Ryan. And where we were on the stage, we could literally see Rab and, we got a whole bunch of fun stuff like Stolen Away on the corner, their 25th and 3rd, right?
Awesome set.
And I'm literally, Rab's coming out, I'm literally hugging Rab like this, bear hugging his arm, holy shoot, this is Rab. Holy shoot, this is Rab. Ryan, get a freaking picture. Get a freaking picture.
Did you get one?
We did. It came out all right. So, I mean, it's dark in there. So it was, tough to keep everybody still for just long enough to get a good one.
Right, it's dark and I'm hyperventilating all the way through this. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's Rab. Holy crap, that's Rab. And then, as it turns out, I get my first set list from those guys, and I'm like, oh my God, this night couldn't get any better. There's a freaking set list, right?
Yeah.
And then
you had to pick to maximize your air guitar skills.
And then somebody did an air guitar. Now understand, the joke on stage is Dave sweats a lot. I was sweating
I don't think it's a joke. It's a medical condition.
Hold on. Hold on, let's be fair. Ryan has never been to a concert with me. I'm just pulling him in for this weekend. And I kid you not, I'm strumming and air guitaring so hard that I'm sweating. And Ryan's like, "Are you okay?" Like, I'm literally yelling everything. I'm kind of going ape shit wild.
I have videos of you like strumming the guitar. Is there, Ryan? Did you take videos?
There's a you and me video, actually. Yeah, I took one.
Oh, I think there is, right? Yes.
And
I have a video.
Yeah, you did some good honestly, pictures and videos.
That night was so incredible. I was like, how do you top that? And of course, the first song night one encore was Sister, and my family itself is very small. So my mom has a brother, right, who got me into DMV in the first place to review. And Sister is one of those songs that my uncle's in Chicago and is videoing them 20 years ago and calls my mom, who's in LA on a trip, and it's like midnight. My mom's like, "What are you doing calling me so late?" And my uncle's like, "I want you to listen to Sister because you're the sister that I have." And I've never heard Sister before. I was sort of like in disbelief, like, oh my God. But yeah, so that's night one. And night two, was let's go tailgate the entire day. Like, let's go meet people. And Ryan had a lot of local friends, kind of, worked around. We had lunch. And Carrie was like, guys, I can only stay with you down in the covered area for 4 or 5 songs. And the 5 songs she chose were at the very freaking beginning.
Yeah.
And
that was, we were trying to figure out, do I go at the beginning or the end? And I'm like, I'll just go at the beginning.
Right.
Well, I mean, so Carrie was working with somebody else as well, during this time. Not just Cameron. Carrie had somebody else go on. Carrie, sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. And it was like they didn't know how they were going to be able to navigate because their needs were different.
Yeah.
Part of that was certain spots of SPAC were better for them to experience the concert. Me being gone for like 5 songs was good, but it kind of like social anxiety and stuff. And I'm like, that's fine. Do you want beginning or end? And I'm like, all right, I'll go for the start. I'll go for 5. So that's when it got good.
And Carrie and I literally are dancing around. I am just like pure on dopamine at this point.
Yeah, the opener was 2-step.
Oh, well, so the whole
PNP into 2-step.
The opener was PNP. Yeah. Into Time Bomb Fake, into 2-step. And me and Carrie just literally look at each other. We're like, oh.
I lost my mind because I'm like, am I getting Time Bomb? I've been chasing that.
Carrie, where's the hat of yours?
Yeah. So I have a traveling Dave hat. That's what I started.
Oh, yeah, it's got pins all over it.
So what I do is for every show I go to, I buy a coordinate bracelet. And then when I'm done, it goes on my hat. So I don't have like all these t-shirts and stuff. I have a hat of coordinates. And then there's this wonderful gentleman who makes these pins in one of the groups. So I buy them from him because, I gotta.
Oh, yeah. The pin game.
Awesome.
The pin game is a whole.
Because I gotta.
Because I gotta. Yeah. I got it's beautiful work. And I'm like, I want to have it. And then, but I only have a coordinate for every venue and I have to go. And that's the rule. Like, and when I'm done, it goes on the hat. But it gives a memory of like show,
No, this was night 2. And I'm super like excited to do all of these things, right? And I realized that my time is short. And so I just hear all these things. Like, I'd never heard Loving Wings live before.
Oh, yeah.
I'd never heard any of this stuff live. I'm like, holy shit.
It was second night was incredible.
Yeah, it really was. Not as great as Gorge Night 2, but
hey.
We can't compare.
Come on.
We can't compare.
We get it. Yeah.
Apples and oranges, man.
Yeah. Sure. But, you're talking historical sets, different.
Right. But people kept going up to me, and I wanted to take a lot of the attention off, and I was like, "Hey, thanks for being here. It's great to meet you. Like, I'm happy to talk about the journey, but I want to give a lot of, credit to those that helped me." Walking out each night, it was like, am I seriously doing this? Like, am I seriously here? Like, do I live in the moment? And of course, my uncle and I do this great thing where I will play live set list with him. I have my phone. I'm texting my mom and my uncle. And by the way, my mom and dad are in Canada at this point, 300 miles north of Seattle. And so they're on a boat, but they have Sirius. And I'm like, here's my Sirius login. Everybody listen to night one. It'll be live for you. I just want you all to be there. And turns out that earlier in the day, the boat had malfunctioned. And so they were in the shop
stuck in Canada.
Yeah.
It's literally stuck in Canada.
And quite literally, they were like, thank you so much for the Dave show. Like,
it was
like, right. I was like, they've provided so much for me personally, right? My parents have.
Yes.
That I kind of felt like in that moment I was providing for them, and it really made me feel.
Oh yeah,
that's awesome.
It's like the full circle.
Like,
yes.
Right. And
I love that.
I gave it to my uncle. My uncle listened. Everybody listened. Everyone's like, "Holy shit, this is a great set!"
Yeah, they kind of got to live it with you, and while you were doing it as well.
Right. Now, granted, I got everything from that weekend. I got the Saratoga shirt. I got I got all the posters. Thank you to some of Ryan's friends, but I basically got it all. Now, they're not all up in my room because my room's super small, but
rotate.
Right.
Yeah,
it felt,
you got to.
Yeah,
there you go.
It felt kind of. So then Saturday finishes. I'm in town all day Sunday. I go meet Ryan's family once they're back, and they're all just great people. And I'm like, hey, thank you all. Like, you all have raised an amazing son. Like, you all have done all this great stuff. And then on Facebook every day there was, hey, look at these adventures. And I knew I was going to Lake Tahoe afterwards. The people say the Dave Freshen, right?
Yeah, it's a real thing.
It is a real thing.
I had Dave Freshen in the freaking airport. Like, I'm literally, my flight's late at night, and so I spend all day Sunday just messing around. And leaving that rental van to go into the airport, there were so many tears shed. Because on the one hand, it's like, holy crap, I made it, right? And it's funny that I'm even here because, so many people are not here, right?
Yeah.
And so many people want to be there, right? And so this is sort of a good point for me to say a lot of my experiences with the band have helped me get through a lot of stuff. I put on Funny the Way It Is just, for a reminder of what I'm doing and why it's so important. Or I'll say like Two-Step is my wedding song kind of thing. This idea of like overcoming challenges 2 by 2, right? A lot of these things. So Saratoga really was the great weekend. And I remember in the car ride Saturday night, I put a conference call between my uncle and my mom. My mom had just literally landed back in Seattle. She's literally like, how was night 2? I'm like, night 2 was incredible. So there were so many tears, like I was a wreck. Because I'm like, I don't know, because I'm like, it wasn't so much the fact that the spotlight's not on me, right? It was sort of, hey, look at how far we've come, right? The Matchbox 22, or a lot of these things, right? And in previous, I would go through and listen to like a Derek Trucks, for example, or I'd go listen to like a Tedeschi and Trucks to sort of soothe my Dave Freshen, right? Or I'd go through, listen to Fish and Train Stasio. And so I'd get these Dave influences all throughout, my growing up. But I was sort of like, I made it.
You did. And you should celebrate that. It was a big deal.
Yeah.
And you did
Zero hiccups. It was
amazing.
Was the big thing. We really did.
Perfect.
And we had
Do you feel like it was, you feel that way, right? Like you look back on it and go, not only did I do it, but I had a great time.
Yeah. I mean, there wasn't, Carrie, I don't know about you, right? But we had done a significant amount of planning and backup.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. We had an itinerary, not by hour because that doesn't work, but but day with like potential events, one big thing, small thing. And I highly recommend people try that theory. You can do one big thing and one small thing on a concert day, or just if you're doing a relaxing type day, I want to keep it relaxing. One big thing, one small thing kind of works out pretty well. Right. Your day's gone, by the time you do a big thing and a little small thing and, then you wind into a concert. Right. Yeah, I mean, Carrie was. What did we do Saturday, Carrie? What was that whole deal? Oh no, we went to dinner. So that was the big thing. Was you did nice brunch.
You did brothers.
Yeah.
You did tailgate.
Oh
yeah,
which again, I've never really tailgated before, unless you call the Gorge tent live, right? First year at the Gorge, I was completely unprepared. I didn't have anything. I had my tent, but I didn't stop at the Fred Meyer's in Ellensburg. Like, I was a complete virgin, if you will, to use the term in that sense. And
we went around
but
town.
Again, no hiccups. That was the big thing, right? That was no like hiccups. A whole weekend.
Such a big deal.
It's like no hiccups.
It was
such a big deal.
We had some other people on board as well, but Carrie was a big driver, right? Of the medical side of the house. Or
your
thought
mother
process.
Was too, and
No.
Yeah, she was she was hesitant to get sucked into this because there was, I actually kind of remember where I was going with that. Like after the Gorge and stuff, which is a whole different conversation, but like Cameron's mom had asked at dinner that we had on Sunday night or Monday night, like, did you think this wouldn't? And the answer was no.
No, I agree with you 100%. We would have never.
I knew it was possible to make this happen. And to get it done. There was no, again, to go back where I said, like the worry was the layovers, and I forgot you had gone through Las Vegas. The worry was the no supported layovers, right? Mm-hmm. Now, and Cameron, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you do have support through the airlines who have I would say concierge, but they have like people that can help you out and they do things for you. But I mean, if there was a significant delay, like, Cameron stuck in an airport, right? That was the biggest thing. Did I think it wasn't possible? No, because, Seattle and Albany have the same resources, right? And costs. I knew the Dave family and Carrie's connections that might donate, or people that she knows, right? Like, would step up to cover what we need to cover, right? Mm-hmm. It was really just the resources are there. It was utilizing people like Carrie, to connect the dots.
And Renae, there's a few things I'll say looking back on this experience that I think are, quite cornerstone like for me. First thing is, I did this trip independently, but at the time that I was doing it independently, I was like, damn, these set lists are so good. I wish I was sharing it with my uncle and with my mom.
Yeah, I know. Right? Yeah.
And just sister to hear that again, and Loving Wings, Stolen Away on 55th and 3rd, or, just all of these like songs that rarely get played for this reason and for these ideas.
Right.
What that means and how that functions. The second thing, to this day, I am blown away at the generosity of the DMB community, and not so much the generosity, but like the human aspect of it, right? I knew I was going to Lake Tahoe. I'd never been to Lake Tahoe. I was talking with Ryan because at that point the focus had gone from SPAC to the Gorge, right? And could we get everybody out to the Gorge again? We had such an amazing time at SPAC. Like, could we rekindle this and do this again? That took a lot of planning, and not to sound, and to tell you the reality of this, something that I still struggle with to this day, because I had a great experience. I equated to like what a Make-A-Wish would be, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, how do I pay this forward? Right? I was in contact with Ryan. I was in contact with Carrie, because those guys had sort of said, hey, if we can make this work, we can make this work. And I said, hey, let me worry about all your camping supplies. Let me worry about all your stuff. Let me do all of this, because that is the easiest way. It's a big thing for me, but it's the easiest thing I can do to say thank you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that, to me, humbly, that is the thing that I struggle with the most. It's sort of the like, how do you pay it forward kind of thing. It's in large part to these people, Ryan and Carrie and everybody I've met on the road, who made the experience what it was. And I thank the entire family and the community. For example, I'm at the meetup just prior to Lake Tahoe, right? Like just outside the venue.
Yeah.
And like, hey, were you the guy that flew all the way to SPAC? Like,
yeah, I love it.
I flew all the way out here from, New York for my 40th birthday. And I followed your journey. I'm literally like, oh my God. I can't believe that I'm getting noticed from Saratoga. I'm all the way out in Lake Tahoe.
You have a community of people who are connecting with people. So like, I know for me, like I see people in the groups and then you realize like, I want to talk to them. Like I want to learn who they are. And it turns out like you find out who your people are that way, right, Cameron? So now this person was probably so excited that they got to meet you in person because they've been so interested in intentionally following your story. It's not just popping up on their page. It's like, they are like, where's Cameron? What's this? Oh my God, am I going to meet him when I go there? Like, not like you're a superstar, but like I finally get to meet the person who came all this way to New York to experience what we come all the way to the gorge to experience, right? It's the same thing. It's just the opposite. Right. And it's, it's not the gorge, but it's the experience of that. And how many people you met at the gorge who either met you or heard about SPAC or came from there, right?
Or, another funny story I'll tell. I'm on the roof at Harvey's and there's this woman from Vegas. And this woman is like, hey, I'll be at the Lake Tahoe shows. Hey, I'll be at the gorge. We miss each other in Lake Tahoe. We run into each other Sunday at Cave B with a bunch of our other friends.
I love it.
No, I'm getting chills just thinking about it. Right?
Yeah.
Who we are and who we decide to share ourselves with. My favorite lines, I've got two of them. I'm so glad our paths crossed. I'm so glad our paths crossed tonight on our way into the night, right? I'm so glad I got to cross paths with these guys. But they've all got their own individual story and they're just incredible people. They really are incredible people. And then my other favorite one is from The Best of What's Around. It's not really where you are, it's who you're with, right?
Yeah, I mean, one of the big things too, right, was like when the GoFundMe aspect, we did need some money to make things happen. And, that was done and dusted in 2 weeks. So, I mean, went over some other fortunate events landed in our path. So, going back to the donation was, ended up being, like $1,100 for the donation to sale, which isn't an insignificant amount. So, I mean,
and we didn't tell them.
Yeah, I mean, I knew we could get the money. There were a lot of things I think other people were more worried about than me. I mean, I knew I could reach out to people, and get it toasted pretty quick. One little thing, there was a little connection that I made in Chicago, and because of the things that I helped somebody out with that I didn't know, they donated, $200 for a piece of paper, which was pretty cool.
Wow.
So there's a lot of little things that ended up, with the family being pretty spectacular as this built out.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah. But wasn't it the amount of money that was left before we hit our goal was 41? And then the 41st person was the one who did it. So I'm like, it's not a cult. It's real. It was.
I love that.
Birdoff made it or effect or something like that.
Yes.
Full swing,
And then the one who did it was the 41st donator. So
yeah, it was pretty wild.
Yeah. It's not
Renae,
a cult.
It's not a cult.
Well,
it's not a cult. There's just all these numbers that line up and make us do things.
Well, I did that.
It's not a cult, but 41.
We're going to figure this out.
It's just a passionate group of people with a numbers thing.
Yes, that's numbers fetish.
Funny the way it is.
Smart.
But, there's another saying that I kind of go through, and I think my experiences, some of the reasons that I was doing it kind of led me to this point, which is happiness represents joy. Joy represents gratitude.
I love that.
So in other words, if you're doing something that you enjoy, it's going to make you happy. That happiness is going to push you forward to do these things that you may not otherwise do. There was so much gratitude throughout the entire group that
it was exciting.
It's exciting, but like looking back on it, I'm like, I can't believe it's even here, right? And so then, and at the gorge, Ryan's super well connected all around the DMB family, and so he and I make the determination to go to the gorge. Right, I'm already going. I've already got my 3-day pass, and he's bringing a friend of his out who's never been to the gorge. It was sort of like the same way I was. Right, initially I was, hey, should I make this trip? Like, there's so much that can go wrong. I'm not going to say I got stage fright, but I got cold feet a little bit. It didn't really hit me of what I was doing until I actually got on the plane to Chicago. It's like, oh my God,
Yeah.
We're doing it.
And so his friend kind of felt the same way. She saw night 1, night 2, and she's literally telling me after, before night 1, hey, when do you think we're going to get Gray Street? We're going to get Gray Street night 3. These are people who have followed along the journey, and, I've never met these people, but Brian's connections, I literally go up, give her, a giant hug, and I'm like, thank you for everything. And I hope this weekend is great, right? And, with all the connections I had made, I'm helping other people get to the gorge.
Oh,
or helping other
awesome.
people get wherever they need to go.
Yes. And I think your story is going to help people continue to do that even throughout the future as people listen to this in a year from now or 2 years from now and wonder, how am I ever going to make it because of X, Y, and Z? I think you're a story. You're proven that with the right support system, you can get it done, but also give yourself so much credit. You did this. You did this. And you have to, I know you feel so good about it, but give yourself so much credit forever because it was probably scary. Like you just said, got cold feet, like, oh shit, am I really about to do this? And you did. And it turned out wonderful. So, that can be taken so many ways, even as listeners are listening to this, if there's something that we're afraid of, but we want it so bad. Usually those things are scary because we're pushing the limits of what we think we can do, right? And that's a scary situation for anybody. And it was for you too.
Right. And, I'm literally helping Ryan's friend, like convincing her to buy the flight out to get to the gorge kind of thing.
But Cameron, we do have one piece of the puzzle left. We do still, I wouldn't say we've been procrastinating it, but we need to set some time for it because we've been chipping away at it to utilize what we've done and point out some resources for people. And
yes,
now that I've built a video for the DMB community for, the SPAC world, the beautiful dumpster fire, we still need to kind of dial in a framework for traveling, for ADA people, right? To help, kind of get that out. And, we actually have, it's like 90% completed. We just need to spend the time to get some slides, professionalized for us, and then, have the conversation. So, and then, it is our learnings, Carrie adding things to the document, me, Cameron adding things to our documents, right? Where, just to give, because you can't go down and fix the little nuances for each person with a disability, right? Just because there's different ones and there's so many different nuances for everybody traveling or doing what they want to do. But we can provide, a conversation and go over the foundational aspects, how to do it, and the things that we learned along the way, and the things that the framework that we built that you could follow to do the same.
So, they can make their own.
And the framework is great, but it's also, what are the obstacles in front of you and how do they work, right? And how does
what do they need?
What do they need and how do they do it, right? And I credit Carrie with a lot of the learning here, and it's person-centered planning. I don't normally do that way. I only deal with problems that are right in front of my face.
You only do what?
I only deal with problems that are right in front of my face, right?
But you only have to do that. It's a barrier for you, right?
Right. My point being, though, right, on something big like this, right, it was unbelievable. I felt like I reclaimed a lot of the things, right? And sort of reclaimed my own voice through a lot of this.
Do you think if you didn't have a disability that you needed to make ADA and we had to do this whole thing, if it wouldn't have been as big for you?
I've wrestled with that, right? And I don't know.
Hard to know.
No, it is. Right?
Let's put it this way. It was big for me, just given the way that I grew up, like we talked about an hour ago. Right? I grew up with the shackle of, hey, what about the care? Now, granted, the way it was described to me wasn't exactly the way of what they were meaning initially. So there was already so many things that I didn't do that I wanted to do. And I just, for whatever reason, reclaimed it, right? So.
Yeah. Well, Ryan, I'm so happy that you and Carrie both are, and with the help of you, Cameron, as well, are putting together some slides or some information for other Dave Matthews Band fans that need to know this information. You guys are not the first person on this show to talk about the complexities when traveling to see Dave Matthews Band based a need for ADA compliance and how many, I'll say, for instance, there is a place in, I believe, Chicago that's almost impossible for people to get there. Now, I don't know if that's still the same venue that they're using now or if that was a past one, but this has been a problem for a lot of years. And so it would be nice to have a fan perspective resource that says, hey, here's some hurdles that you would have at XYZ or whatever. So that's going to be really needed. And please let me know when you finish that so that I can also share that availability as y'all do too.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, like, I think there's some, like, the needed personnel pieces, right? It's take somebody like Cameron, right? That needs just a little assistance, but has the drive, right, to put something together. Then you need somebody like Carrie, right? So you need subject matter experts to help you navigate a few things, right? Then you need a project manager.
That's you.
So, and I transferred this hopefully to Cameron. There were some things like, the non-commissioned officers, right? Like purpose, direction, motivation. So you build out your purpose, which is pretty easy, right? In this case, get Cameron his back. Then you work on direction, which was like getting people like Cameron and subject matter experts involved, and other people to help, find resources, point to rate resources, handle resources. And then, the motivation is pretty easy, right? When you get to that. Yeah. But you do have to, and Carrie mentioned this, right? You do need, some kicks every week, or every other week, Cameron had a few of those where he kind of dropped off the radar a little bit. So for other people watching, right, where like there was one, there was an email that was like, hey, send me your credit card information for hotel. And 2 weeks later, Cameron still hadn't responded. So like, so stuff like that. Like, I don't recommend doing that, but like,
got busy, right?
Like you need the different aspects and personnel, but purpose, direction, motivation. You keep figuring those out every week, and after a while, it'll all fall into place.
And Renae, I'm so glad that you have this platform, right? The platform for folks to share their experiences, right? I took the time and I listened to a few episodes and hearing everybody's ideas and their thought processes on all of this. It's not radical by and large, but I'm not going to say courageous. It takes a lot of empathy and it takes a lot of perseverance to sort of get where you want to get.
Thank you.
That is something that obviously I will take with me, right?
Yeah.
But
thank you.
With how small my family is, a lot of these folks in the DMV community are my own people, right?
Yes.
And your people.
Absolutely. And again, that's what this podcast is about. I was never hearing, other than on social media or whatever, fan stories. And that is what I wanted to hear as I won't call myself a new fan, but as a new traveling fan, I wanted to know, what were people doing? What were people saying? And in their own stories, unedited, like, here's where I struggled. But also the other side of music where, the music of Dave Matthews Band really helped me get through some shit. And that's been, honestly, that's been the bulk of these conversations that I've had with other Dave fans, is this music is saving lives. This music is changing lives. And even for those that have just grabbed a hold of this concept, they're just all in. And so to neglect reporting a story that is happening in our time and has been happening for over 30 years and hopefully will continue for at least a few more years, how could we not document this really important story? And also half of what Dave Matthews Band is, because Dave Matthews Band is nothing without fans, because they would never equal into almost 35 years of doing anything if we weren't so supportive and loving of what they do. And so this side of the story needed to be covered. Your side of the story needed to be covered. And it still does, because they're going to help other fans, but also people that aren't aware of the music in 100 years from now, when they're Googling or whatever they're going to be doing in 100 years, probably not Google, but when they look up music history, who knows what it'll be. But when they're looking up music history, as we all still do, right? Like, we're still studying about previous times and previous music. this will one day be the previous times and the previous music. And so I want to make sure that all sides are documented. And that is my goal on this show. And so thank you so much for just helping me to be able to do that. And I think the more that people have figured out, oh, that's what she's doing, she's documenting for the future. Okay, then it makes way more sense. But also, it's so much fun to talk to people that have that love and passion that you also have, because I don't know about your life, but like I could probably knock on any neighbor's door and no one wants to hear anything about how I feel about this music. But you guys, you are on board from moment one. And I dig that. And other people dig that too, to listen to these episodes and go, okay, I am not the only one with these feelings, you know, or I saw that completely different, or I heard that, or I took that a different way, or whatever. And so it's just created like a fan world that I am so thrilled to have created. And the story, I dig y'all to anyone that's listening to this that is not even aware of why I started this podcast. The why I started this podcast is a big deal. So I invite y'all all to go back and listen to this, because it's a mental health story that has turned out a success story.
I love that.
And I mean, just briefly, in 2022, I no longer wanted to live. I was a nurse that had been a nurse for so many years that COVID took me down to the ground. And I had to find my way back out of that hole that I had dug for years, because that was my profession. That was my job. That was the expectations. That was everything that I did in my life. And I lost myself in that. And so caregivers often do that. And so I empathize on your part in so many ways, because I understand what a struggle it was just from a nursing aspect, all these pieces, and how it wasn't easy. It did happen and you did it. And I'm so happy for you, because I understand completely how big of a deal this was. And I'm just so excited to be here and to continue sharing these amazing stories. So thank you so much for letting me do that.
Thank you.
So, and I invite you all to come back. Obviously, Carrie, Ryan, if you want later on, you can come back on the show and tell me from the first moment you heard of Dave Matthews Band. Carrie, I'm excited. You know, I'm excited that you are growing, that you are learning. I can give you homework. Just message me and I'll be like, here you go, ABC.
I got so many people.
No, I do.
You know, Renae, if I may.
Yes.
Every year at the Gorge, I've got to take a caregiver with me, right?
Yes.
Just due to the nature of the job. And this year, the caregiver I had was an all-star. I'd been to the Gorge many times, knew what had to be done. We were stopping in Ellensburg regardless. But he was a DMV virgin. And by night one and a half, he was literally like, Cameron, I get it.
I love that.
It usually just takes one live show.
Well, right.
And if the music doesn't sell it, the people do. The people do.
And, you know, I've talked to Ryan and I've talked to Carrie about this before, but there should be places where we all meet up every year because of how
I agree.
Oh, I'm totally doing that, Cameron. As soon as tour comes out, you're the first person I'm texting. Whoa, what are we doing?
You got to start a new spreadsheet. It's a new
My brother
spreadsheet.
thinks I'm crazy. He's like, I don't worry about it right now. I'm like, I have everything booked before all these shows, even tickets for sale.
Book the Sphere, for God's sake. My goal forever has been sort of make family and build connections with people who are family. And so it's sort of like when you go on a first date and you realize things are going well, and then you introduce those people to your parents.
Yeah.
There's a human element to it, right?
Yes.
Yes, I have the stories to do it, right? Or the memories of what it used to be. But I also have this like, hey, I'm going to be okay.
Yes.
You are okay, Cameron.
You are
Thank
okay.
you.
And yes.
Right. But this idea of like, hey, I can reach out to whomever I want with whatever things I want to do. Like Carrie and I were just texting the other week about the freaking Bills. Polo Bills, I should say.
Yeah, no, Buffalo Bills.
Oh, no, guys, thank you so much for taking time out. I'm so happy that, Cameron, you have gotten this documented so that later on, even though I know it's documented in story form and all of that through the social media, wow, you know, it's so good to have everything documented. And now you'll have this video. So in 10 years or hell, in 5 weeks when you believe you can't do something, watch this video and you'll be like, I can do anything.
Exactly.
This is what that's for, is to remind you that you did it and you're going to still do it. And this community is amazing. And again, that's what this podcast is about. So thank you guys so much.
And
thank you.
Renae, I've got other connections in the group. Like if you want to talk to any of these people that I'm thinking of who are major D&B fans or
I want to know. I want to know everybody.
Right?
They don't have to be super fans, you know?
The people I'm thinking of are super fans. You're looking at one of them.
Well, I can handle
it. Anyway.
Nice.
Thank you for your platform. You know what? Frankly, I wish my arms could extend 5,000 miles, right? Just do a group hug of Ryan and Renae and Carrie.
We'll have to do that next concert, next season. Next tour.
Thank you so much again for tuning into this. If you are listening to this on a podcast app, just know that you can watch all of this. And I encourage that so you can see all of these faces tell this journey. Check us out simply on the Space Between podcast on YouTube. And of course, we're on all the socials, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. And you can say, hey, you want to be on the show and tell your journey. Again, you do not have to be a super fan. You do not even have to have gone to one show to be a fan of Dave Matthews Band. And I hope everyone remembers that. You do not have to travel to see this band. So I welcome everyone on this show. If you're interested, I've got an email that's super easy. Even if you're driving, you don't have to write this down. It's Renae at the Space Between Podcast, dmb.com. So you can remember that. Send me a little message and we'll get you scheduled. You never know who is going to be on the next episode. I have so many coming and kind of unsure what's next. You never know who it's going to be. It could be your bestie from SPAC. It could be your bestie from Hollywood Bowl. You never know where they're going to come from. So stay tuned. And guys, in the meantime, Love and Dave Matthews Band.